Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Inspired by You MindKite Podcast. Today, joining me, I have the wonderful Scarlett OConnor. Scarlett has been Miss Atlas. She is a life and business transformation strategist. She's doing fantastic things on Clubhouse, and I'm so honoured to have her on the show. So welcome, Scarlett. Thank you for coming on the MindKite Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
You're very welcome. I listed there at the start of that some amazing things you've done. You know, you've won global competitions for female bodybuilding. I mentioned Miss Atlas there. You're a lifestyle coach, if you like, mentor, strategist, transformation specialist. You also do this in the business world. You know, transforming businesses, taking them from basically zero to hero, and that's really wonderful. But I've also heard some stories, you know, from the past that basically formed this. Basically, you're a superwoman, you know, you're a mum and things like that. You run a fantastic business. So basically, there's been a transformation of you, never mind what you do for other people. And I was wondering, if you don't mind, if we could maybe delve into that backstory a little bit and touch on some of the, I don't want to say traumas, let's say disruptions that you've had in your life that sent you on your journey to where you are now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where would I start? I guess, I mean, you mentioned about Clubhouse there as well, and I've been on Clubhouse. And since I got onto Clubhouse, it's been all new, kind of sharing my story and being referred to as the Queen of Resilience. And I think that title of what people are kind of saying, it kind of says a lot in that. Just been, I would say, if you listen to my life story, I've been a bit of a pro at being knocked down, but definitely like to think a master at getting back up. I came into this world, to put it brief and without going into too many details, I guess, but by two people who, let's say, shouldn't have had children. And so I went through things which I now understand, like looking at the big wide world. A lot of people have, unfortunately, been through traumatic events as a kid, and that was the same as me. And at 12, my mum kicked me out, and I went into all sorts of things, hanging around with adults and kind of getting up to all sorts, and was written off by a lot of people. Went into the care system, and then at 16, I had my little boy, and became a mum. And that I don't recommend to anybody. But he really was like the light in my life. He gave me purpose and reason. And so I'm very grateful for that. It was a blessing, absolute blessing in disguise at 16 years old. But then I became this little go-getter. I knew that I wanted to be the mum I didn't have. I knew there were things I wanted to provide, but I didn't really know what that looked like either. So it was on that journey of kind of, striving for more. I guess every time we achieve something, we set out to achieve something, and then our reality changes and we realize, oh my goodness, well, if I could do that, what else is possible? And it's been a continuous journey of that, I guess. And I can sit here proudly, like you mentioned, to say that I've been a successful businesswoman, and despite not coming from maybe much and not having great education, etc., I've managed to build a successful career in business. And so, provided for my son in all the ways that I ever imagined, plus all of those I knew nothing about, including nice holidays, etc., and those lovely things that I didn't get to experience. And then in 2015, again, a holiday, but this time with a bunch of girls without the kids, which was really lovely. 30th celebration, which I was very happy about. I mean, to be able to go on a 30th holiday with a bunch of girls without the kids and to say, yeah, I can do that and go spend however much it is and be able to do these things was amazing. So I went away that weekend, probably flying high on life, meeting all these great connections, not having the kids around. Life is just amazing. What I didn't realize is that for my whole life, I was probably carrying quite a bit of anger around. And I wouldn't say that was obvious. I wasn't ever an angry person, but I was carrying stuff around I knew nothing about.
Did that come from your parents? And I hear you talk about your mum quite a lot as well. Do you think that anger came from the parental situation that you were brought up in, and then sort of leaving your home early and stuff like that?
Definitely. So I didn't realize this, and this is probably what sent me on that journey. So while we were on holiday in Spain on the final night, police were called to an incident, and it ended up with the police officer smashing my face off a marble floor and almost killing me. I had to have 4 blood transfusion. All the bones were broken in my face, scarred across my head, cheekbone broken, eyebrows bone broken, had all my tongue sewn up. And so yeah, I was in quite a mess after that. Very lucky to be alive. And that really sent me on a journey of, like, I'm very much somebody who likes to see what's the positives I can take out of a situation. And I know that can sound really nuts to some people, but I truly believe that's how I've moved forward in life. And so that strategy has really worked for me. I'm able to go, okay, well, this has happened, but what can I take from it to get my strength back and continue? And so that was what I did with that situation. And part of that was to look at myself and understand, why am I the way I am? And why are people the way they are? Why was my mum the way she is? Why did she not love or care for me? And treat me and neglect me in that way? And why did that police officer let out his anger on me in that abusive, disgusting way? And there was nothing I could ever do about that. And so I went on that journey of, why do we become who we are? And I soon found out that as an adult, you only really carry anger with you if you've had something you morally disagreed with as a child. And because you didn't have a voice and you had to stay silent, you carry that around because you were a child, and between the age of 0 and 7, your mind is shaped, and experiencing those things as a kid and not being able to have your emotional needs met means that those emotional needs haven't been met. And so that there's a lot that comes with that, carrying frustration and anger, like beliefs about yourself, your own self-worth, like what's achievable, what you deserve. And so yeah, it really sent me on a journey, which has led me, part of what's led me up to where I am today, on helping people.
So anger's a really big issue, and I see it a lot, and a lot of people don't realize, but it's a massive part of your mental health. Being angry all the time and harboring and carrying anger around with you. See, people, especially, there's a lot of men out there as well that anger's just kind of part of being a male. But I try and teach, and I'm sure you're the same, that anger's actually, a real telltale sign of something that's going wrong, mentally, and it can spiral further. So just keeping on that anger thing, and you were saying about when you were in Spain and you knew you were harboring those sort of anger feelings, or they were coming out in a way. What would you say to anyone who is, is feeling anger and has bouts of anger and continuously, because usually it does rear its ugly head quite a lot of the time? What would your tips be if anyone's feeling that way, and have you got any advice to help them move on in their life as well a little bit?
Definitely. I think the first thing is becoming aware of it, acknowledging it, because like I used to get angry when I was drunk. So you wouldn't ever see that I was angry. But if I got drunk, I'd wake up in the morning to find out I'd maybe been a bit angry and not known anything about it. Or maybe remember, but yeah, and it wasn't ever angry at people I love and care about, but just I would just take on the world, and that came from somewhere after having a drink. And I know plenty of people obviously are in that situation. But I think generally, like if you find yourself getting frustrated at things, first thing that really helped me initially was to ask myself, is it really worth it? And what that meant to me is, has anyone died? Because otherwise me getting angry over anything is not worth it. I think big thing for me is that usually when we're angry, is because we're a victim to what's happened, to either what somebody has said or what they've done. We've maybe set expectations for something, and now we're feeling bitter and resentful because of what we're getting back. And so I'd urge people to, recognize that as well. Recognize, are they angry because they're being a victim, let's say, or are they actually, what's going on? And then reach out for help. Like, this has been, first of all, was becoming aware for me. And then the second thing was actually, right, well, what do I do about this now that I've become aware? Because once you become aware, you realize how apparent that is in your life. And we're always running from our subconscious. So whatever's going on back there, whatever's like deep rooted, is actually driving us every single day, our thoughts, our focus, our actions, every single thing. And so
it's a warning shot, it's giving you the warning signs.
Yeah.
So we'll even just focus on you, because I think your that was great advice there, and I think your journey sort of speaks to itself, and we'll go through that journey. So after you discovered, you were harboring that sort of anger, and you knew you had to look inside yourself, and what was your journey through that? What did you personally do? And what did that look like at the other side for you? What was the success of that? How did you come out the other side?
Well, first thing I did was start to research. Like, I think sometimes, yeah, for me, it was researching. Like I've always done, if I want to learn or understand something, then I find the time to learn or understand it. So I spent evenings, years really, researching everything. Like, where does anger come from? Once I discovered that, it happens with, if you were obviously a child that went through things that you morally disagree with. Once I uncovered that, it was like, okay, well, what does this all really mean? And so then I started to understand what a toxic childhood really was. And yeah, reality was I had one. And then from that, I started joining forums. And from joining forums and starting to realize that I wasn't alone and lots of other people about how I did, I realized that I discovered what narcissism was, what narcissistic behaviors are, what NPD is, narcissistic personality disorder. And I then went on a real mission to understand, how does that shape us? Because narcissism carries down in generations. And I am definitely the one who's broke the pattern in my family. But to truly break that pattern, it became apparent that I needed to really look inside at myself. What was I just demonstrating? What was I carrying? What insecurities was I carrying myself that was making me show up in the world as not my best self? And so I started to go on that journey. And unfortunately, in 2017, 2 years later, I lost my dad. Now, he was never really a father, as in looked after me. He was a very old and poorly man. He'd been mentally ill and alcoholic his whole life. And so I looked after him, if anything, but he was my only person and I was his only person. So he passed away, unfortunately, in 2017. And then I did everything I usually do, which is put a smile on my face, carry on like I'm okay, bam, 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 go back into kind of, I can do everything. And that was exactly what I did. And I took my son around Cambodia for 3 weeks as we had planned, still continuing at 100 miles an hour. I don't think if anybody met us on that holiday, they would have had a clue what I was going through, because I just didn't ever make anything apparent to anybody or talk to anybody about anything, unless it was me helping them usually, or putting a smile on somebody's face. And then I got back home, and a week later, after continuing to not really sleep, drink, pretend I'm okay, I passed out of the wheel of my car due to exhaustion and drove into a tree at 50 miles an hour. So not that I actually remember any of that, but what I do remember is obviously waking up from a coma, waking up in hospital to find that I'd almost died the night before, and I had to be cut out of my car and everything, and was left with this massive scar across my head with a severe head injury. And so after that, it became apparent there were obviously still things I needed to learn. there was obviously things I still hadn't learned. And what became apparent on that, going into that really dark place, I went into a really dark place, almost gave up on the world a bit. Couldn't understand things. Again, was working, continuing to work, continuing to act like I was okay. Still went straight back into that mode as quickly as I could. And it was upon going out of that dark place, I realized that, do you know what I mean, there's more to life. I'm not really happy. I'm not living my purpose. I'm in a job that provides money, but money ain't everything. Money don't make you. It's a tool. You need it because we've got bills to pay, but I'm not serving the world. I'm not. Yeah. So I knew I had to change things, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't go on to help the world. I didn't feel like, when I was actually a broken woman right now. I mean, as I mentioned, like I was in a dark place. I had staples across my head. They actually stapled my head, so it's quite horrific. So I had a fringe cut in to cover it. And so I said to myself, okay, well, look, what I need to do now is qualify to be able to really help people, so I can really understand how I can help people. But first of all, I must help myself. And so I went on a bit of an internal journey, and that's when I realized that I didn't really love myself. And I began a self-love journey. And I think that's one of the most incredible things that we can all do as human beings.
I think that's super important. I think, and I promote this, and I've heard you promote it, and many others as well. And it's so true. And people don't understand, especially giving people, when people are, your mothers or your parents, and you're giving all the time, and you don't actually realize how depleted you're becoming. Well, you've, for example, you fell asleep at the wheel there. That's a situation where, you could have lost your life. You quite nearly did. And all through not really taking full care of yourself, stopping for a minute, looking at your life and seeing you know, where are you actually at? You know, do you have a full cup? Can you pour upon to others? And you actually serve your friends, your family, and the world and yourself better when you're stronger from within. So
you do.
Absolutely, self-love is something that we need. And that's already we're at, you know, 2 massive traumatic things where you've nearly lost your life, but change has came from that, you know, a realization. And you know, I wouldn't want you to go through that again. And anybody watching the show out there as well, and stop before any of this happens. Take stock of yourself. And as Scarlett's just said there, self-love is so important. You know, get that anger curbed as well, and look at yourself, look internally, and use the methods that Scarlett said here today. So a massive thing, and I've seen the pictures, and they're absolutely fantastic. You were Miss Atlas. You've competed globally in you know, female bodybuilding and shows of that nature. And I mean, the pictures are fantastic. So I need to pair it up in my mind, because you've been through this trauma in Spain, you've had this car crash, and now I've seen you standing on stages with trophies. So that right there is an inspiring journey, and I would like to hear that part of how you got from point A to point B. And I'd be really interested to hear that part, if you would share that with us.
Yeah, okay. So it was May 2017 that I had my car accident. But up until that point, I'd always trained in the morning since I was about 21. So not as a kid, but when I started wanting to get rid of my baby belly was when I started training, about 21. And so fitness had always been part of my lifestyle. I knew how important it is. So that's an act of definite self-love and kindness. And so I had been preaching that for years, and doing that for years. But because of my car accident, I obviously couldn't. So I couldn't train for about 9 months, slept a lot for quite a bit of that, then went through deep depression, and coming out of that, like I said, I knew I had to fill my own cup up first, as you just mentioned, and do something for me, so that I could really prove not only to myself but to others as well that I did have the tools to be able to take you from that place to being successful, because I've done this multiple times before.
Just before you go into that part of the story, it's just you touched on something there, and you said you were in a deep depression. And what was your sort of defining snapping point for you to get yourself out of that? And you know, what did you do just because I don't want to skip over that part, because I think it's important. Is how did you get from depressed to then thinking about being active?
Yeah, okay. So I think recognizing that I'm only harming myself, that I am in a place, in a thought, that my thoughts are in a place of, how we describe it, I'm a victim.
Yeah, got you. Makes sense.
And I've not been able to probably articulate in that way until now. But yeah, that's what I've done my whole life, is when I recognize that actually I'm being affected by external stuff, something I have no control over. I need to ground myself and recognize that yeah, I'm in that place, and that's not me. And I think reminding yourself of what you've done before, what you've overcome before, can just be a great reminder. Because when you're in a dark place, quite often you're not feeling like that. You're feeling very weak, and you're feeling in a dark place. And when we're in that place, we're very limited, because everything's been external to us that has the power. So I think recognizing that that's why you're feeling that way as well, because you've given the power over to somebody else or something else. For me, is certainly what helps me every time to go, okay, wait there, I'm feeling like this because I'm giving it to somebody else. Let me bring my power and give it back to myself, remind myself of what I've done before, and that I've definitely got the strength to do that again.
Brilliant. No, it's great advice. All right, let's get to this pumping iron.
Okay, so yeah, that January I got back to the gym, decided the first thing I needed to do was help myself, and so got back to the gym, and then decided to start life coaching. So qualified as a life coach, decided that yes, like I said, NIT is great, but it's not fulfilling me. So how can I use everything I've got there and move into something that really fills my heart? And so I started life coaching, but again, wasn't going to be ready to kind of move straight into that, whilst I still needed to fill my own cup up, and I was walking around with my hair still cut, etc. And then someone mentioned to me at a local gym that I joined, say, oh, Scarlett, you should get into powerlifting, you lift pretty heavy. And so I come home, looked at powerlifting, wasn't for me. But while I was on that search, I seen a competition that said Fit Mum. And I thought, you know what, like my boy's like, what, 14 or so at this time. I've spent 10 years in a gym working to get rid of my baby belly. I'm a fit mum. So I was like, oh, you know what? I don't know what it is, but you only live once. Like literally, that's where I'm at now. I've almost lost my life. Like, yeah, you only live once. So I entered this competition, not realizing it was like bodybuilding competition. And then the day after found out exactly what I'd entered myself into. And at that point, I thought, like, my friends were a little bit like, what is this world you've entered? And so was I, like, oh my God, I've got to get up on stage. I've got to tan. I've got to wear a sparkly bikini. I've got to wear heels. I've got to prep. I've got to stick to a diet. I've got to exercise more every day. Oh my goodness, it's all of this. But wow, how exciting that I can do something just for me, not be for mum duties, not for work duties, not for anything, but just for me. And after being a mum since I was 16, it was like, do you know, that, and after being through all of that, I was like, do you know what? I just need to do this. And so that was what I decided to do. And that first competition, I actually ended up winning and came away from it just thinking I'd only do it the one. So do that one competition and that would be it. But take the winning aside, the actual day was just amazing. There's so many incredible people all on a self-love journey a lot of the time who are doing something just for them. And there's something so incredible about bringing people together. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I decided that's it. I'm going to do it again. I got a great coach, Nathan Smart, who's a good friend of mine as well. And he said, Scarlett, you need to be going pro. Like, you were great up there. I can't believe you haven't done this before. And so he said, I've got your back. I'm here. I want to work with you. And so I had a little look at competitions, different federations. And there was a show in the UK. If you compete with them, they will take you out to America to compete in America in another show at the end of the year, like grand finale kind of show. And so I thought, yeah, that's what I want. So I wrote it down in my goals, coma to Miss Atlas. And that was it. I went for it that year. So entered the competition here in the UK and I missed out by one spot. They were only taking the first place, but I couldn't believe that having never done it, I was there. Roll on 18 months, fast forward 18 months, the show in England, NFM UK, decided that they were taking 10 athletes out, 5 girls and 5 guys, to represent Great Britain. So November 2019, I was taken out with Team Great Britain to represent Great Britain in Oklahoma. And yeah, I think, I can't remember how many was in our category, maybe 28 people, different countries. I won Miss Atlas 2019.
Brilliant. No, that's a great story. And you know, anybody that's watching this, go and check out Scarlett's Instagram and you'll see, you know, and just follow Scarlett in her journey and her story and you'll see some fantastic things. What I would like to speak about on that is, I know some bodybuilders, I've spoke to yourself as well, and you danced over that so prettily to the end there, but you did speak about, you know, having a coach and sort of, you know, a trainer, let's call it, a diet. You know, you've got structure there, you've got a routine because you're doing your weights and your prep and things like that, and even your posing and stuff. It's artistic in a way, you know. And I know a lot of bodybuilders dedicate most of their lives to this. But what I did find with these bodybuilders is it's great for mindset. It's good for mental health because they have all these, you know, they're building relationships, they're forming a structure, they're forming a routine, they're being conscious of their diet, they're conscious of every aspect of themselves. And I just want you to talk a little bit about what it done for your sort of mindset, mental health, and what you took from it from a female perspective.
Okay, yeah. I mean, wow, so much more than I ever intended. So obviously went into it with the idea of like, yeah, I'm just doing this for me. But what does that really mean? Like, what are benefits of doing something just for you? Like, not because of your mum duties, not because of, and I did experience some of that, obviously, with keeping fit in the morning. So it was that, like, every single day sticking to something like that's just for you. That's not for anybody else, and nobody else might not understand it. But doing something just for you, that I think that waking up in the morning after you've done a whole day of sticking to something, because as we know, like, you wake up in the morning, maybe go a few hours, it gets maybe, I don't know, you get to the evening, you think about something, you got to go, no, I'm not allowed that. Like, this is my plan, this is what I stick to, and I'll be up in the morning to do that and X. And waking up every day to go, do you know what I mean? Just a pat on the back, like, well done. you gain this mental strength that you maybe didn't realize that you had. Because if somebody said to me, you're going to eat this for the next 6 weeks or 10, I mean, my last prep was 16 weeks. So if someone said to me for 16 weeks, you're going to eat this, you're going to train 2 hours a day, you're going to X, Y, and Z, I'd be like, oh my goodness, wow. But if I just think about it each day and think about the end goal, like, why is it that I'm doing this? It's a beautiful feeling inside that you can't share with anybody else. Like, nobody can understand it. And I think, like, we think when we do stuff, like, we want other people to celebrate it with us, and we want, like, to be able to share it. And this isn't really something you can share. It's an internal feeling that's just for you. And that I live on, that I love. So you gain incredible mental strength for it. You realize, like, how strong you are. The community is beautiful, like you mentioned. Like, I mean, I think mental health is a bit of a problem in that world as well, because of image and having to maybe keep up with a particular. So it can add all sorts of pressures and strains, I think, to people's mental health, as we know, with, like, keeping up an image, etc., and social media. And so I think there are its own other issues that come with it. But getting up every day and dedicating to yourself is a beautiful act of self-love.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about just a little bit about the community thing, and the reason why I'm going to, and not just particularly in bodybuilding, but I think a lot of people don't start things which involve other people because they worry about, will I be taken on board? Will people like me? Will I mix well with other company and stuff like that? And there's a lot of misconceptions about group activities, or when you go to competitions, that everybody hates on each other. But I've found it to be the complete opposite. And I'm just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the sort of backstage stuff, and is there a good community spirit, and how does that help?
Yeah,
it is good.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I mean, this world was like another world to me. Yeah, I was somebody, as you've heard, who would eat how I want, drank rather than speaking, I mean, sticking to something all day and sticking to a diet, and the whole thing just seemed very, very alien to me. And then to go with it, getting up on stage, and I mean, you see all the pictures of, and including like mine, everybody looks glamorous, they've got their tans, they look all ripped, they just look beautiful, makeup and hair is done and everything's gorgeous. And so I was actually expecting on my first competition that maybe it's a bit catty backstage, but I was ready for that because I wasn't there to be catty, and I was there just to embrace and enjoy the day and love it for what it was. But I didn't realize that what I was actually going to love so much was that community. That was a big part of what made the day so special, was that actually every single person there has dedicated however long it's been on a prep or a journey to do something just for them. And everybody's got a story. And you've got younger people who might be coming into it for all different sorts of reasons, because fitness really means a lot to them, because of self-love, because of different reasons. And then you've got kind of women, or maybe men who, I mean, this was when I was backstage for all the women, but women who've, I don't know, maybe led their whole life a certain way, maybe weighed 20 stone or whatever they weighed, and have maybe gone through shitty relationships and had whatever kind of, and then they're stood on stage in this bikini, proud, loving themselves, just with it, just their confidence just beaming. And it's just the most beautiful, beautiful thing. And you soon realize that actually most people who are on this and part of this are dedicated to themselves, which is everyone finds challenging. Like you said, like we've all got different responsibilities, different things, and actually just putting yourself first is a pretty big ordeal, which is why it's so important to do. Like not enough do it, but yeah, when you're there on that day, you realize, and even the build up to it, I mean, it's a whole nother little world and community, isn't it? So everybody has a story, everybody has a journey. And I think if anybody looks at somebody in that world and thinks that they're different, or they don't have problems or challenges, like, it's completely not the case. And this is it. People have learned things that help them. And one of those is
well worth doing it. Well worth doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever thought about it, Jamie?
No, I've got enough fun. It's do you know what it is for me? I respect you so much for what you do. It's just that absolute dedication. I just don't have. I love the gym. I go to the gym, but I just don't have that little edge to go that one step further and put that dedication. I've got other passions and things that take up my time, and I wouldn't like to do something half-hearted. I would have to dedicate, like you have, that time to do that. And yeah, but I'm a member of different things and, boxing clubs and stuff, and the community is the same there. And I remember as a kid, I used to be like, oh, I don't want to go down there. What happens if people are better than me? What happens if this? What happens if they don't like me and don't? And it's the best thing I've ever done, because I've got friends for life from that community, that of the groups that we joined, and clearly it's the same for you. So anybody out there watching this, and advises to, if you ever want to do something like that, just go for it. It's 99% of the time not what you think it's going to be. All right.
No, it's incredible. And look up NFM, who I went with. Honestly, what a show in the UK to offer that opportunity. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And when I was in America, I got to be with 10 other athletes in a house for kind of 5 days and talk about relationship. It was just the most beautiful thing, which wouldn't have been possible had I never gone and taken that plunge and gone, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to do this for me. So just urge anybody out there who's likes the idea of something, but feels nervous about it. It's probably because it would light up your soul. So don't be scared. We literally only live once. A thing that stops a lot of us a lot of time and causes us problems in anything we do is thinking about other people and judgment. And
yeah, so I think a lot of the time as well, we get confused with the feeling, those anxiety feelings and things like that. We get confused sometimes because we can be anxious in a good way. Like you said, you feel that something's going to light up your soul, but then you start to confuse it and go, oh, it's actually dread. I'm dreading going there. But you wouldn't have thought about doing something if you didn't want to do it in the first place. You start to begin to talk yourself out of it for some reason. And yeah, so you're bang on there. Okay, I want to go on to, you spoke about IT and your sort of project management stuff, but I don't really know you from that. I know you as this transformation specialist basically now. So
yeah,
obviously you went through, career burnout and things like that, and you've had, accidents, and you mentioned life coaching, and I know you've done some other stuff. I just want to know if you can talk about that career transition, because I know you as a person that helped so many people out there, and you're going into the corporate world and things like that to help, again, probably thousands upon thousands of people. So I want to get to why you, or when you left that sort of career, when you went down the life coaching and into I presume some other sort of qualifications and things you do now.
Yeah, okay. So, at the same time, so I qualified as a life coach that year. And then I looked for, because I've been in project management for 8 years or so, 4 years of freelancing, life coaching didn't teach me much. It taught me the principles of what a life coach is, etc. But kind of getting someone from A to B or mapping out a destiny. I mean, this is all project management. So a lot of it was interchangeable. And I came out of it okay, well, I get this, but how do I really help somebody? Because I can say I've done something, but how can somebody else do it that way? Or how do I really help somebody? Because we're obviously all individuals. So I started studying NLP. I came across NLP and I was like, wow, what is this? What we can understand how the mind works, how thoughts turn into action. This is it. Because people are doing things every day that they wish they didn't, including, like we talked about, getting frustrated, etc. So why do we do the things we wish we didn't? And so I started to discover that. And I qualified as an NLP practitioner, then an NLP master practitioner. And during that journey, I started to take on clients. So whilst I was bodybuilding and still working in IT as well, I started to take on clients on the side, one to practice with initially, and then to start actually building a business from it. But like I said, I wanted to fill my own cup up first. So bodybuilding for me, I'd set my goal. I need to go from coma to Miss Atlas. Now, whilst I can do that and I can learn the tools to really help somebody, I've done mine. I've filled my cup up. I've been on my journey. Not that we don't need to continue doing that because it's daily effort, but I can do that, and then I can go on to help others. So throughout that course, I took on clients. Then in November 2019, I won Miss Atlas, traveled a bit while I was out there, seen a bit of America, and then came back and said, right, okay, now I need to kick my bottom into action, I guess, and now really start to share. And so 2020 was my year of really starting to grow as a business, I guess, and come away from so much of the corporate world as in working within IT. And so I was in a contract though until May. So from January till May last year, I took on additional clients whilst working full time. Then in May, the incident happened with George Floyd, and that really brought a lot back up for me. Obviously, we'd been in lockdown in the UK for a couple of months by that point. I think probably most people, the same as me in lockdown, did a bit of a rethink, look at their lives. And so as I was kind of doing that and going, wait there, what's important to me? What happened with George Floyd happened. And that really mucked me up, brought back a lot of things that maybe I had just I dealt with a lot of my childhood trauma. I dealt with loads of things, dealt with my anger, but I was still carrying this sadness around and these other things. And so since then, since the George Floyd incident, that was when I went, okay, no more. There are too many people out there suffering. Like, I've been at the hands of not very nice people throughout my life, and I don't walk around frustrated, angry, and taking it out on other people. And that isn't just because I'm compassionate or understanding, it's because I understand the importance of that individually for our own mental health. And I think when we can get to that place of understanding the importance of that on an individual level, it just ricochets, doesn't it, out to everybody else.
Now that sounds to me like a passion for you. It's not even a career anymore. It's a passion to help other people in the world, and you've educated yourself in a way to do that now. So you've got that disruptive story and those traumas and the things you went through. You've turned that, which is absolute pain, into an absolute power, but not only a power, it's now a gift, because that pain is turned into a power that's going to help other people, not only just you, but people around the world. And you are, I mean, you're on that Clubhouse application, and you've got your own Clubhouse in there. You run your own rooms, which I've been in many of them, and they're completely inspiring, and I just wonder if you can touch a little bit on that, because it's now your full-time works to help other people. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that and sort of the rooms you do on Clubhouse, just so people get an understanding of what it is you do and how you can help other people, because I dare say people will be watching this, your story will connect, and they're going to want to reach out to you. So if you just, let them in a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So I'm working obviously with clients over the last few years. I worked out what is the process that I take people from who've been through similar that I have, using all of the tools I've gained over these last now 15 years. What is it I can do? So I take people through what I call scars to strength process. Currently that's only one-to-one, but I plan to open that up to groups over the next couple of months, so we can build communities and people can really I can help more than one at one time. But I take my clients through scars to strength process, and that really is letting go of any troubles that they have, any anger, sadness, fear, hurt, or guilt that they might be carrying around. Because we don't, like I said, we don't even recognize as adults that we're carrying all this stuff around a lot of the time from our childhood. So I run different rooms on Clubhouse. Just going back, I think for anybody out there who's looking to start a business, get out there, what's one thing that was not holding me back, but that I guess I wasn't doing at the beginning because I wasn't looking to grow, was getting my story out there. Getting out why I'm passionate about it, what it means to me, how I can really help. And so in the summer of last year, I just shared a story to say, hey, by the way, world, this is what's happened to me the last few years. Nobody knows. People I've worked with for years didn't know what I'd been through. And so I was like, hey, well, by the way, this happened, and this is how I can help you. And from that, the clients have started to come through, and that's how I've started to really build on that business. And Clubhouse is a great now addition to that, because we can jump on and actually be able to help people who need the help within seconds, because there's a title of a room, for instance, on a problem that they need solving. And so, I really like to bring a bit of humanity back to conversations, recognize that every single person is a human, to be inspired by people and their journeys, to see that it is possible. I think when we see something in somebody, to just recognize that doesn't make anybody more special, to be inspired by people's journeys. Clubhouse is a great opportunity right now for anybody listening. If you're not on the app, get onto the app. It's an incredible way to just be able to connect, have diverse conversations. I think at the moment social media tends to be, you see what you believe. not maybe what you don't. And so therefore you can't learn or grow a lot of the time with what you're looking at, because you're only looking at what you know. And so I'd urge people, if you're not heard of Clubhouse, you're not on there yet, get onto Clubhouse. You can have great conversations and really, have those aha moments throughout the time. And that's
what's your club called on Clubhouse? What's it called?
So the club on Clubhouse is the Superheroes of Clubhouse. So the purpose of that is that every single person in there is a superhero. And even if you're not feeling like it right now, I plan to help you make you feel like that when you come into our room and leave. So the idea of this is to really help people realize that they are the superhero in their lives, and that with the right tools, techniques, information and support around them, that they really can feel like the superhero in their life as well.
Brilliant. Do you know, I've heard your story a couple of times, and I think this is probably the most sort of in-depth we've went on it. And it's actually got me sitting, looking into myself just now, going, have I got any anger sitting around? Have I got? And I work on myself constantly, but even just hearing this story, so I know it's going to have impact on the people that will watch this or listen to this in the future. On that note, though, Scarlett, thank you very much for joining me. But could you just let everybody know, the listeners or the viewers know, how they can reach out to you, how they can actually get in contact with you for, what you're doing, basically? Because I think that, the more people that get the right information and help out there, the better. So if you just let people know how to contact you, basically.
Yeah, of course. Okay, well, I'm Scarlett OConnor on everything. So also my website is www.scarlettocconnor.co.uk, where you can book a call, get in contact. My email address is coaching@scarlettocconnor.co.uk. So if anybody just wants to have a call, wants to have a conversation, wants to know more about kind of what I'm doing or what I can offer, and how that might look, then please get in contact. I've got a couple of just free little things on there to be able to help. One of the first things I find when I work with a client that always comes up is boundaries. Quite often when we've been through things as well as a child, we can quite often become a bit of a people pleaser, because we're afraid that if we actually say what we want to say, or maybe don't do the things that we don't want to do, that people are having a problem with that. And if they have a problem with that, we're not going to maybe be loved, or etc. And so one of the first things I always work with my clients on is personal boundaries. And so I created a PDF only recently, actually, where I went, I don't need to just be giving this to my clients. Anybody could be able to have this. And immediately when they recognize the importance of it, with some steps to be able to implement them, I know that it just makes a big difference in people's lives. So if anybody wants that as well, I'm about to put it onto my website. They can drop me an email.
Send it to me.
And I will. I will get that across. So
I have two things I finish every podcast on. One of them, the first one is basically just a future tip. So a future tip for yourself, or a future tip for the audience. What you do on a daily basis, or anything, any advice for the future to help, get people through this time that we're in just now.
Okay, so maybe a couple of things. So obviously we're just about to come out of lockdown, hopefully in the UK, or wherever you are in the world. It's been a bit of an unsettling time, and I think because of that, people are fearing all sorts of things. So I think recognizing, first of all, that our thoughts are, although they obviously control our actions, what's going on back there is all images. So if you're currently feeling a bit fearful, it's probably because of what you're imagining could happen. And as we know, it hasn't happened because it's all in the future. But those images are really, really powerful. So I would say to people, if you're feeling kind of fearful about anything right now, always recognize that you can change the image in your mind, and that has a profound effect. So I would take that definitely, and something to implement. Exercise I spoke about, I live and die by that. I think that for our mental health, getting up and doing a bit of exercise in the morning as well is just the best way to start your day. Allow yourself as well to do that, to recognize that it's going to help your day by taking that half an hour for yourself. Because of that, change your physiology. That's what we do when we exercise. We change our physiology, our shoulders go back, our chest goes up, and next minute we're releasing all these endorphins. One thing that can just help in a day-to-day basis is, if you're not feeling very good, just check in with how are you actually sat? Are your shoulders down? Is your head down? Because likelihood is it probably is. And the thing is, your brain knows that when your shoulders down, your head's down, you're not feeling very good. and so therefore your thoughts aren't going to be very good. And so one thing you can just do is to get those shoulders back, get that chest high, get that head up, take a deep breath, and recognize how your thoughts just completely change when your brain recognizes that you're stood in a powerful position. So there would be my couple of tips for people to help them.
Absolutely fantastic advice. I'll second that. My second thing is a little cheeky on the spot thing that I do with every guest at the end. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's nothing too bad. I believe every single person on this planet, their story is inspiring in one way or another, whether they believe it or not. I've heard many stories from people that didn't think their story was inspiring, but inspired me, hence why I started this podcast. And not often do people even know they have a platform to tell their story. So what I always ask my guests is, nominate one person that you would like to tell their story, and I'll do my damnedest to try and get them on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. What question? Yeah. Well, I know talking Clubhouse. Well, I know an incredible person I've met and made friendships with is Sir Marco Robinson. He has an incredible story. He has come from nothing to obviously something. He's a Sir. He's been knighted. So he has an incredible journey. He'd be one of the key ones. And yeah, I mean, I'd go with Sir Marco.
All right, I know who this is, so I'll try my hardest, and I'll let him know he's been nominated. And yeah, listen, Scarlett, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Your story is powerful, and yeah, everyone in the audience, I hope it helps. That's the end of another Inspired by You podcast. Please, if you liked anything that Scarlett's talking about and it reached out to you, reach out to her. She gave you the mediums how to reach her via Instagram, Clubhouse, or our website. And similarly, with the MindKite podcast, please like, follow, subscribe, and go and join the app. We've got a beautiful community there.